Good afternoon. We are joined by Pawo, who is the director, producer, and writer of YAK in the Classroom, LUNANA. I'm really excited to have you join us.
Thank you so much, Alice. Thank you for having me on this session. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there in person. I would have loved to, but travel restrictions and it hasn't permitted me to come down, but I'm there in spirit. And I want to thank you and the festival organizers for giving LUNANA this platform. I come from a tiny country up in the Himalayas where films like this, don't really have much of an audience. And for us, we really depend on the audience of festivals like your festivals, which give us the inspiration to create. I always tell people, if there is no audience, where is the inspiration for filmmakers to create? So thank you for inspiring us to create.
It's our pleasure. I love that film gives us such an easy window to travel around the world, even when time and space does not permit us to be in person.
I felt like, the thing with Bhutan is we're in a very unique situation. We were kind of self-isolated for the better part of the last century. And because we thought that, we would, for us to exist, we have to be isolated. Because you have to understand, we looked up at Tibet, that was taken over. We looked down Sikkim, that was taken over. And we were sandwiched between these two political, geographical, and cultural giants of China and India. And to kind of sustain our existence, we self-isolated. And it was only when I was a teenager that Bhutan opened up to the outside world. Many people don't know this, but we were the last country in the world to connect to television. We were the last country in the world to connect to the internet. So when that happened, the Bhutanese people almost started having a reference of what the outside world was, what the world was beyond our mountains. And there was this rush to modernize, this rush to globalize. And when that happened, in this rush, we were forgetting where we came from, and in a way, our traditions, our cultures, our music, our stories that defined us were almost looked down upon as unmodern, primitive, and with this movie, every aspect of this movie, I've tried to bring back the beauty of our tradition, the beauty of our culture. And in a way, this movie is really about the journey of the protagonist into the shadows, into the darkness. And LUNANA actually means that. LUNANA means the dark valley. And the songs, of course, I feel like the YAK song is the heart and soul of this movie. And I purposely picked the YAK song and Rangsem, which is the song that the kids sing at the end of the movie. The YAK herders sing by the side of the river. I picked these because these songs, they sing about who the Bhutanese are, who we are as a people, what our culture is about. And yet, in our quest to modernize, these songs were being forgotten. So my reasoning to bring them on this movie was, yes, it adds to what the movie is about, but I want to give these songs a relevance in this modern world when all the younger Bhutanese are singing pop songs and doing rap songs. I wanted to kind of be like, hey, we have this beautiful songs that sing about who we are, let's bring this back. And I'm happy because as this film has traveled around the world and gotten all this attention, the Bhutanese youth are now singing these songs, so it's nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. And I loved that they actually mirror themes of we're all connected and we're all in community. We all think we're separate, we're America.
And Alice, actually, this is exactly the point. One of the most important beliefs we Bhutanese have is this belief in interdependence. It is foundational to our culture. It is foundational to our spiritual beliefs as Buddhists. We believe that the entire world, all of us are interconnected. Even you and me, we have never met, but we are interconnected because of this existence of this film called LUNANA. So we are interconnected. You are interconnected to people in LUNANA now. Everyone is interconnected. So we believe in that. And we this particular interconnection, we call it as tendril, which actually also means auspiciousness. And that's what I was telling you about your Kali background as well. There's this auspiciousness in everything. And we Bhutanese believe that. And with this movie and with this song, I wanted to show that to the rest of the world, the interconnectedness, interdependence of the entire world.
I also appreciated that the song spoke of the soul, the connection to animals and nature. And there was just a pause about climate change. But they're like, yeah.
When it comes to climate change, actually, why I added that was because in Bhutan, Lunana, because it is the highest glacial village, it is actually at the forefront in the battle against climate change. Again, going back to interdependence and interconnectedness, whatever the rest of the world does, strangely, the first people to suffer are the highlanders in Lunana. Their glaciers are melting. They have massive lake bursts going on. A few years ago, many people died because in the middle of the night, the glacial lake bursted and it flooded the entire village. So these are threats that we have. But in that particular scene, that particular scene where they talk about the glaciers, it's one of my favorite scenes. It has not much to do with the overall story, but I added it because it goes back to what the Bhutanese believe in. The yak herder Michen tells the teacher that, I don't know what global warming is, but I know that, the snow lion is losing its home. And, Alice, the thing is, scientifically, there is no animal such as the snow lion. It's a mythical animal. It's a white lion with a blue mane. Nobody has seen that. But in Bhutanese belief, the snow lion, though it is mythical, represents the enlightened mind. So the snow lion is majestic, it is fearless, it is courageous, it is full of wisdom, compassion, and love. It's mythical, but it is within us. Our mind, when it reaches that state of enlightenment, is the snow lion. So in a way, what Michen, the uneducated, the backward man from this remote village, is telling the educated man is that because of human greed, because of overconsumption, because of the so-called global warming, the heart of enlightenment is now disappearing from our world. And this is not some story that I cooked up. This is exactly what the villagers of Lunana told me when I went up. And I thought there was so much wisdom in the tradition, in the dark valley. And I decided to create this scene in the movie. And in that scene, as we zoom out and we see the wide shot, we actually see the entire, many people might not have realized it, but the entire valley in front of them is the glacier that's melted away. When we first came up with the idea and I created the story and I shared it with my filmmaking friends, they all told me, Paul, you are out of your mind. There's no way we can shoot a movie in Lunana. As I said earlier, Lunana, the word translates to the dark valley. Because Lunana is the most remote, is the most desolate, is the most disconnected place in Bhutan. It takes 10 days to get there. You have to hike over the highest Himalayan mountains to get there. And once you get there, there's no electricity. There is no network connection. There is nothing modern there. And, to shoot the movie there, we had to be in pre-production for almost a year and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Can you hold on a second?
Yes,
I think while I edit this, my children are making so much noise here. Tata? Okay.
We have children. We understand.
Yes. So what I was saying was the production of this movie in this village was so challenging, solar powered, first time actors, and for the crew, just one second.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Not at all.
So anyway, what I was saying was that, the production of this film was so challenging. This is a totally solar powered film. The crew and cast, we had to be in Lunana for 2.5 months, disconnected from our family, no telephone. We couldn't even take a shower. But
I was going to say, there's probably no bathing.
No, we didn't even have beds to sleep in. We wore the same clothes we worked in. We slept in the same clothes we were working in. And, we went through this hardship. And I wanted it that way because I wanted to capture the purity of the people. Otherwise, there would be no Aja, there would be no Pemza. I wanted to capture these people and share their stories. But also, I wanted me, my crew, and my cast to go through this hardship. I wanted to really experience what Ugyen would have gone through. So every member of our film crew went through this journey, went through what Ugyen experienced. And I feel like this then this you could feel it in the film. The audience can feel that.
Yes, yes. Also curious how you managed to get all the equipment there. So I assume you used pack mules for this.
We had an army of mules who worked hard in carrying everything up. Because Lunana's weather is changing all the time. We had only a certain window to be able to shoot the film, where there was no rain, where there was enough sunlight to charge our batteries, and also where we could see the change of time. Because in the beginning of the movie, you see it as green. The mountains are green.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it's brown. So that was just in the fall time. So in the preceding months, leading up to that time, we had over 65 mules that was, walking up the mountains, carrying our equipment, our solar batteries, our panels, batteries, rations, to feed the crew members for an entire production schedule. I mean, there's no electricity there, so there's no refrigerators. So rations that could last, the months.
Yes, yes. I think you referenced that almost in the movie, because when you were having a meal with Asha and mentioned Ujin was having in the wooden bowl.
Yeah.
And with the rice, and there was this one little streak of meat, and they were speaking to, oh, I haven't had this since January. This is really tasty. And I think that's really important. You can't run to the grocery store and pick up 2 pounds of whatever you feel like having for the evening.
Exactly.
It is dried and rationed out for the year, and it's for special things and special occasions.
Yes.
That was a beautiful, easy way to shorthand that conversation, I think. I love it. I am curious, when you were growing up, were you planning to do film?
No, actually, I had a very interesting life. My father was a diplomat. Okay. I grew up all over the world. I grew up in Bhutan. I grew up in India. I grew up in the Middle East. I grew up in Switzerland. I grew up in the US. I did my college here in the US. And because I was a son of a diplomat, I wanted to be a diplomat. So I studied political science. I studied government. And, but the thing is, life works out in very different ways. After that, I went to India to study Buddhism. When I was studying Buddhism, I fell in love with storytelling. So I had my camera and I was a photographer. I would take photos. I would write down stories that I would encounter, and in a way share them with the world. And slowly I realized that my pictures were becoming motion pictures, and then I became a filmmaker. And it's been an interesting journey for someone who never wanted to become a filmmaker, someone who never studied film, to now find himself Oscar nominated with his first film. It's been an amazing journey. And the funniest emails I've received are from my college professors, who wrote to me saying, how did a person studying political science end up becoming an Oscar nominated filmmaker? But life works in many beautiful ways, the most unexpected ways. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I hope that I can keep creating stories.
Everyone was dying to know, how was the Oscar experience?
It was very surreal, because for me, just being able to submit my film was already a big achievement. First film in 23 years from Bhutan. When I submitted the film, the Academy didn't even have Bhutan listed. They didn't have my language listed. So to have my film accepted as a submission from Bhutan, to have Bhutan and my language added in the Academy website, for me, that felt like winning the Oscars. And I was content with that. And nobody gave us a chance. Everyone said, listen, this is not how it works. You don't have a publicist, you don't have a distributor, you don't have a fund for campaigning, for the Oscars. So there's no way you can make it. But I told them, I said, this film was never made to get a nomination. This film was made to share a story of Bhutan. And by being a Bhutanese submission to the Oscars, that is sharing a story of Bhutan. And that's enough for me. But, suddenly we got shortlisted, which was, I thought that was so improbable. Then from shortlisting, suddenly this, through just word of mouth, because, Alice, we had no money to campaign. Other films were funded by big studios, had their respective big, rich governments funding them. But, just through the word of mouth and celebrating what humanity represents, suddenly from, least likely to get shortlisted, we found ourselves as an Oscar nominee, one of the 5 best films in the world. And that felt so surreal. And I never really believed it until I was actually in the Dolby Theater, seeing all these people who inspired me to become a filmmaker there, and them telling me that, they loved this film and, it was thoroughly deserving and that they had voted for us. That was just very inspiring. And, then it
It's
felt good.
incredible. It really is incredible. What's the next film? What happens next for you?
The next film touches upon the opening up of Bhutan. As I was telling you earlier,
Okay.
Bhutan was the last country to open up to the, to allow television, to allow the internet. And there was a lot of social changes that happened in Bhutan as that happened. For example, in LUNANA, we have, the yak herders and their yaks. But now with this next film, we are touching upon what happens to a society like LUNANA when television, internet comes in. When I was young, when the television came into Bhutan, the television almost became a status symbol. When the television came into the villages, it was welcomed and paraded, just like how the teacher was paraded. A lot of villages ended up selling their yaks to buy television sets. The society just changed overnight, and this story takes place at that time.
Amazing. I'm really looking forward to it, actually.
Thank you.
Because I think it's a very quick vision of what probably the entire world has gone through with television and internet in their homes. It's just been a slower progression, and you have a condensed timeline where you get to see immediately what the impact has been, both good and bad. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you so much for your time. It's so lovely to meet you.
I just want to express my gratitude to everyone who's watching this film, the audience. As I said earlier, without the audience, there is no artist. So thank you for inspiring us.
Thank you so much for giving us a window into your beautiful, beautiful world. Thank you.
Thank you.